For more than a half-century, the breakout of 3 inmates from Alcatraz prison in 1962 has been the subject of wild speculation.
On a cold night in June 1962, 3 inmates vanished from the most secure prison in America. Surrounded by treacherous waters and fortified walls, Alcatraz was considered escape-proof until that night.
It is one of America's greatest mysteries. What happened to 3 men after they pulled off the most daring prison break in 1962?
What if I told you that 3 men who vanished from America's most secure prison didn't actually escape into freedom, but instead spent 63 years waiting in a tomb they built themselves? In 2025, marine scientists made a discovery beneath San Francisco Bay that rewrites everything we thought we knew about the most infamous prison break in history. This isn't another theory or blurry photograph. This is hard evidence that finally answers the question that has haunted investigators for over 6 decades. The fortress that couldn't be beaten. Alcatraz wasn't just another prison, it was America's answer to the impossible. Perched on a rocky island in the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay, this fortress was designed to break the spirits of men who had already proven unbreakable everywhere else. The currents surrounding the island were deadly. The water temperature could kill a man in minutes, and the guards were trained to expect the unexpected. This was where the government sent their most dangerous criminals, mobsters, bank robbers, and escape artists who had made fools of every other facility. Al Capone served time here. Machine Gun Kelly called it home. If you were sent to Alcatraz, society had essentially given up on you. The message was clear: this is where your story ends. But on the night of June 11th, 1962, 3 inmates proved that even the impossible has cracked. The masterminds behind the Great Escape. Frank Morris wasn't your typical criminal. With an IQ reportedly in the top 2% of the population, he approached problems like a mathematician approaches equations, methodically, precisely, and with absolute confidence in his ability to find solutions. Prison records show he had escaped from other facilities before, but Alcatraz was supposed to be different. Alcatraz was supposed to be final. The Anglin brothers, John and Clarence, brought something equally valuable to the partnership: experience and desperation. These weren't first-time offenders stumbling through amateur schemes. They were career bank robbers who had spent years studying security systems, guard patterns, and the psychology of institutional control. Together, this unlikely trio possessed the perfect combination of intelligence, skill, and sheer audacity needed to attempt the impossible. What they accomplished next would become the stuff of legend, but the real story is far more complex than anyone imagined. The plan that took years to perfect. The escape didn't happen overnight. Evidence suggests the trio spent nearly 2 years preparing, working with the patience of surgeons and the precision of engineers. Every night after lights out, they used makeshift tools, spoons, nail files, and pieces of scrap metal to slowly chip away at the concrete around their cells' ventilation grates. The genius lay in the details. They masked the sound of their digging by timing their work with the prison's music hour, when an inmate played accordion in the recreation area. They created fake wall sections from cardboard and paint to hide their progress during daily inspections. Most incredibly, they sculpted lifelike dummy heads from soap, concrete dust, and real hair stolen from the prison barbershop. But here's what investigators missed for decades. The escape route everyone focused on wasn't their real plan. The famous raft made from raincoats, the desperate dash across the bay, the assumption they either drowned or fled to South America. It was all misdirection. The truth was far more sophisticated and ultimately far more tragic. The discovery that changed everything. In early 2025, a routine infrastructure survey near the Golden Gate Bridge detected something unusual on the seafloor. What appeared to be a natural formation on sonar turned out to be anything but natural. At a depth of nearly 60 feet, about a mile from Alcatraz, lay a sealed metallic container roughly the size of a small shipping crate. The recovery operation took weeks to organize. When divers finally reached the object, they found something that defied explanation: a homemade survival capsule, welded shut and perfectly preserved by the bay's oxygen-poor environment. Inside, they discovered what law enforcement had been searching for since 1962. The bodies of Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin. But these weren't the remains of men who had drowned trying to swim to freedom. These were the bodies of men who had succeeded in their escape, only to become prisoners of their own ingenuity. The brilliant plan that almost worked. Forensic analysis revealed the true scope of their operation. The underwater capsule wasn't hastily constructed. It showed evidence of months, possibly years, of careful engineering. The walls were reinforced with stolen metal, crude ventilation systems had been installed, and there were provisions for food and water storage. This wasn't a desperate hiding spot, it was a sophisticated temporary shelter. The real plan becomes clear when you understand their psychology. They never intended to swim directly to the mainland. Instead, they launched their famous raft as a decoy, then circled back, using hidden flotation devices to submerge into their prepared capsule. From there, they could wait out the massive manhunt that was sure to follow, emerging weeks later when the heat had died down to disappear into civilian life. It was brilliant, it was audacious, and it almost worked. The fatal flaw in paradise. Personal belongings found inside the capsule tell the story of their final hours. Frank Morris had kept a notebook, its pages damaged by moisture, but still partially readable. One entry simply stated, "We made it, but we can't leave." Another read, "This was never the plan." Experts believe the capsule's oxygen system failed sooner than expected. The bay's unpredictable currents may have shifted their position, making it impossible for any outside help to locate them. Perhaps the tides changed, or visibility became zero. Whatever the cause, the three men who had outsmarted America's most secure prison found themselves trapped in a tomb of their own making. The irony is devastating. They had achieved the impossible. They had actually escaped from Alcatraz. But instead of tasting freedom, they spent their final days in a space smaller than their prison cells, waiting for a rescue that never came. The evidence that couldn't be ignored. DNA analysis confirmed what many had suspected but could never prove. The Anglin brothers and Frank Morris had indeed survived their escape from Alcatraz. Dental records provided additional verification. After 63 years of speculation, conspiracy theories, and alleged sightings around the world, science had delivered an answer that was both conclusive and heartbreaking. The preservation of their bodies was extraordinary. The bay's cold temperatures and low oxygen environment had essentially mummified them, maintaining enough tissue for positive identification. Even their clothing remained intact, prison uniforms that served as their burial shrouds. Perhaps most haunting was a note found clutched in Clarence Anglin's hand. "We made it, but we can't leave." These 6 words encapsulate the ultimate tragedy of their story. They had achieved their dream of escape only to find themselves more trapped than ever before. The legacy of the perfect escape. The discovery sent shockwaves through both the criminal justice community and the public imagination. For decades, the Alcatraz escape had represented the ultimate victory of individual will over institutional power. Movies, books, and documentaries had romanticized their story as the perfect crime, the successful rebellion against an unjust system. Now we know the truth is more complex. They didn't escape to freedom, they escaped to another form of imprisonment. They didn't beat the system, they were ultimately defeated by time, physics, and the limitations of human ingenuity. Yet there's something undeniably impressive about their achievement. They solved a puzzle that experts claimed was unsolvable. They built technology with prison resources that professional engineers would struggle to create. They executed a plan so sophisticated that it took 63 years and advanced sonar equipment to uncover the truth. The questions that remain. Even with the mystery solved, questions linger. How did they acquire the materials for such an elaborate construction project? Did they have help from guards or outside accomplices? Were there other escape attempts we've never discovered? The San Francisco Bay may hold more secrets than we'll ever know. The families of the escapees finally have closure, though it's not the kind they had hoped for. For decades, they held on to the possibility that their loved ones had built new lives somewhere far away. Now they know the truth. Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin died as they lived, on their own terms, refusing to surrender even when surrender might have saved them. The story of the Alcatraz escape isn't really about prison walls or government authority. It's about the human spirit's refusal to accept limitations, even when those limitations might be reasonable. 3 men looked at America's most secure prison and saw not an end, but a challenge. They solved that challenge with intelligence, patience, and teamwork that would be admirable in any context. Their tragedy wasn't that they failed, it was that they succeeded too well. They escaped from Alcatraz, but they couldn't escape from the consequences of their own perfectionism. In trying to create the perfect plan, they created the perfect trap. So the next time someone tells you something is impossible, remember Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. They proved that impossible is often just another word for extremely difficult. Sometimes the only thing standing between you and your dreams is your willingness to dig through concrete with a spoon, one chip at a time. What do you think about this incredible discovery? Was their plan genius or madness? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story as fascinating as I did, hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories that will change how you see the world. Until next time, keep questioning everything you think you know.